In the book Atomic Habits, James Clear says the first two principles of starting a new good habit is to one, make it obvious, and two, make it easy. We've been talking about this habit of catching and releasing, being able to not only pick up something and try and focus on it, but to be able to set it back down. And if we're going to do that, we need some practical ways to make it obvious for ourselves and to make it easier. That's what we're talking about today. A few practical methods to pick up this habit of catching and releasing and doing it for the long term. All that today on the show. Hey guys, I am Reese Maxwell from Thriving Man Coaching, and we've been talking about this principle of catching and releasing, not only being able to begin things, but being able to set them down and enjoy our life a little bit. So as we are doing this, we've been talking about the theory of it, what it means, why it's important, but now we're in the practical segment of it, of the how. How do we do this? And we're going to need a few practical tools. So I've got three for you here today, and these are three that have personally helped me. So they are tested by me. I know my father's used them as well. David Maxwell, the other coach in Thriving Man, and we wanted to share them with you so you could apply them to your own life. I'm going to work from order of simplest to most complex. So these three are starting with the checklist method. It's pretty obvious. You write down what you need to do. It's simple, but it is a powerful tool because the key here is as we write things down on paper to a place we know we're going to come back to, and that's a key principle there. If we write that down, that enables our brain to let it go. I don't know if you've ever had one of those moments where you're trying to focus on one thing, and the moment you focus on that, 37 things that you need to do later that day pop in your mind. That happens to me all the time. Literally, when I was driving here to get ready to work on this coaching stuff was popping in my mind about birthday plans that I had to do, people I needed to text, people I needed to contact. I forgot to send the address to some people. Like all of those things popped in my brain as I was trying to just relax. So what a checklist does is when you get that thing out of up here, it enables you to let it go and to really enjoy those times of release. When you're trying to really take a mental vacation in the middle of your day. You can't do that if your brain's trying to remember everything at the same time. So the checklist is a place where you set those things down and record them. As I said earlier, it does need to be a place that you come back to. That can be the Notes app on your phone. That can be something like Google Tasks. That's another thing that you could use. You could use Todoist. That's another one. Notion. I've used checklist on Notion before. These are all places, like as long as it's a spot where you can come back to it and know that you're actually going to see it again, because you're smart. You know, if you're going to just write it down on a random sheet of paper and throw it on your floor in your room, you're not going to come back to it. And your brain's going to know that and try to remember everything. So it needs to be in a reliable spot. It also needs to be prioritized. When you make a checklist, make sure that the stuff that's most urgent and most important is on top. I'm not going to explain the whole thing today, but the Eisenhower matrix prioritizes tasks based on their importance and their urgency. You want to kind of do the same thing with your checklist to where it's not just you're working on something that's due in 6 months and isn't that important, instead of the key thing that needs to get done today. So you need to prioritize it. A great way to do that is the big three. The big three is where you pick the top three most important things for the day. If, let's say you're at work, if I can only get 3 things done today, these 3 are the most important. And if I get those 3 done, I would classify today as a success. That needs to go to the top of the checklist, because if it doesn't, you might find yourself working on little admin tasks that don't matter that much. So the checklist method is number 1. You need to make sure it's in a reliable spot and that it is prioritized from top to bottom. It's good to pick a big 3 priorities of the day. Checklist method's number 1. 2 is what's called the Pomodoro Method. The Pomodoro Method has been very helpful for me. Because I'm the kind of person that when I start something, it's hard for me to stop. Like I'm just going to get into the mode and just want to stay in that mode and keep like cranking stuff out all the time. And because of that, I can end up gypping myself. Like I can end up messing myself up. I've multiple times over the years, but even 2 days ago, I was washing dishes at 10 p.m. at night when I should be going to bed. Because I got in the zone. I was in the productivity zone. I picked some stuff up, and then I saw that the counter had stuff that needed to get picked up, and then I saw there were dishes in the sink, so I started working on that. And before I knew it, an hour and a half, 2 hours had gone by. With that in mind, I'm the kind of person that needs the Pomodoro Method because it's based on time. It's increments based on time of doing stuff and then taking mental breaks. You literally use a timer. And you work on whatever the task is before you for 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break. And then after 4 rounds of that, you take a long half-hour break. Now, you don't have to do that exactly, but the principle is there. If you've got something that needs to get done, set a timer and work on it for only the amount of time that you've allotted. It's a good way to avoid procrastination. Because if you're like me, part of the reason that I procrastinate on doing something is I know that, man, if I start this, it's going to take forever. But the timer breaks it down into something that's a little bit more tangible. Okay, I just got to work for 25 minutes. I can do 25 minutes. I can't do 3 hours, but 25, I got that. It helps you start and it helps you stop. Because once the timer's gone off, you're setting another timer specifically for rest. If you're a person that has a hard time giving yourself a break, the Pomodoro Method may be for you. Third, and finally, is the principle of time boxing. Time boxing is something that Marc Zao-Sanders, a tech CEO, came up with for his personal schedule. I heard a podcast on it years ago, and I've used it in my life, and it's been very helpful, especially in the seasons where you've got a lot of competing priorities or a very limited amount of time because of a deadline or something. Time boxing is useful because it combines your calendar with your to-do list. It combines the calendar with the to-do list because you're answering 4 key questions, 4 key principles. 1, what? What do you really need to do? That's the same thing as the checklist. But question number 2 starts to make it more practical. When? When are you going to do that thing today? And for how long? Is it a task that takes 15 minutes? Because then on your calendar, you just set a little 15-minute thing to reply to these couple emails. Or is it a big project where you need to set aside an hour and a half to really crank it out? You got to choose what and when, which already puts you ahead of the game. The third principle that really helps is one. Once you set a time block aside, you need to work on that one thing for that amount of time. The other stuff's going to come at a different amount of time because you've set that aside already for the rest of the day. You're focusing on this one thing for now. So it helps you not get so distracted by all the extra stuff. And then this principle is good for people like me too, and maybe you, enough. By the time you're done with your time block, you're not trying to have the task that you've set aside absolutely perfect. You just want to have it done well enough that if you come back to it, it's easy to polish off and be done with. We don't want to let perfectionism keep us from actually getting things done. Once again, this is a great tool if you've got a lot of competing priorities, a lot of things that are time-bound that you need to handle. It's more organized and it takes a little bit more work up front, but it does pay dividends because at the beginning of your workday, you already know that everything that needs to get done is on that calendar and is going to get done as long as you focus on it. So it gives you some freedom to focus and enjoy those break times that you put in as well. Now, don't forget, you can personalize these principles. They don't have to be, oh, I'm just doing the checklist method, nothing else. Maybe you could combine that with the Pomodoro Method. All right, I'm going to set 25 minutes to get the first item on my checklist done. Or maybe you can combine the Pomodoro Method with the time boxing method. All right, I've got an hour to do this thing. I'm setting a 25-minute timer, taking a 5-minute break in the middle, and then handling the other 25. You could do that. The key here is to test and see what works for you. Because if you can make it obvious and easy for yourself, you are going to be way ahead of where you are today. It's that vagueness that sometimes can mess us up. At the very end of this, I wanted to give you a couple little bonus tools to help. You want to be able to set the atmosphere for you being productive. And that means setting cues, habits. What I mean by that is this. Pick a specific place. If you have like an important task that needs to get done, if you're an author and you need to write, well, pick a place to write. That's going to help you know that, hey, once I start stepping into this space, I'm going to write. It's going to help you catch, pick up, and start that thing. And then when you leave that space, you can let it go. Background music is very helpful. I wrote this episode with lo-fi music in the background. That helps me focus. That helps me know, my brain subconsciously knows once this kind of music comes on, it's time to get some creative work done. You can use that for yourself with whatever kind of music is helpful for you. You could even use lighting. Maybe you've got a certain lamp in your room that when you turn that one on and all the other lights are off, that's your time for creative stuff or for reading if you want to pick up that habit. Lighting can be good. And then finally, use desktop apps and phone apps to your advantage. A lot of times they can distract us when we're trying to pick something up and then we get 37 notifications from our phone. Use the Focus app or download an app that's a little bit more intense that'll help you focus because it completely removes and shuts down all your apps or something like that. The best kind of self-control is making a decision before the decision has to come. You can use apps, whether on your desktop or on your phone, to help avoid the distractions that would keep you from being able to actually focus on what you've prioritized for the day. For me, I use Notion a lot, and I'll use the desktop version instead of the one online because when there's that search bar on the top, I want to look at YouTube, like I want to go do something that I find interesting and fun. But we can use those things to our advantage. So I've given you a lot of practicals here, and I encourage you go back and watch these videos, and you can do it again. You can click the links in the description to find those different methods. The key here is you want to experiment with these different things, with Pomodoro, checklist, time boxing, with setting up cues for yourself to focus or using apps to remove distractions. You can use a combination of these things to stack the deck in your favor when it comes to the catch and release principle. If you need more resources, you can go to thrivingman.com or look at the rest of our YouTube channel or Facebook pages. We're always sharing more content to try and make your life better. I hope this helped you today, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving Man podcast. If you want to check out more resources from David and Reese, you can go to thrivingman.com. We'll see you in the next episode.